Hello, so this is Dr. Kraus with a really brief overview of Python function basics. There are lots of other videos and tutorials on the internet that go into more depth. I'm trying to get you mostly up to speed in a very short period of time. At least that's my intention. Python functions begin with the keyword def. We're defining the function, followed by the function name, followed by parentheses, followed by the inputs, and then you must have a colon. And then after that, there must be an indentation, either a tab or a certain number of spaces. And then you have the code of the function itself with the same indentation maintained throughout the function. And then you have the return statement with possibly more than one value being returned. And then whatever the opposite of indent is, you outdent the code to signify the end of the function. Technically, the return statement is optional, but that's just not a great idea most of the time. Key features of Python functions compared to some other languages. Python does a really neat job, I think, of allowing you to specify default inputs, and it also allows you to return as many different things from your function as you need without requiring that you use pointers or some other painful approach to kind of work around multiple outputs. They're just supported without really any effort on your part. So let's jump into some examples. Like I said, keyword def, function name, inputs. And I guess technically also the inputs are optional. Sometimes, yes, it makes sense to have a function with no inputs. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to me to have functions with no outputs, although there are certain specific cases, and we can get into that if we had to. So keyword def, function name, inputs, and then I'm indenting, and I'm going to define an output that is the sum of those two inputs, and I'm going to return it. It's a super complicated function. I could then call my func1 of 2 and 3 and get 5. I could also put something on the left-hand side of this with an equal sign to capture that and use that as a variable later on. Additionally, like I mentioned, I think Python does a fantastic job of handling defaults. So I could call my func2 and just pass in a 3, and I get 3 plus 5 as a default. And then, I guess just to be thorough, I could easily override the default by just providing the second input. I also mentioned that Python functions can return multiple things. And so I just put a comma delimited list of the things I want returned. And so I could say, show me my func3 of 2 comma 3, and that returns 5 comma 6. Or I could have q comma w, well, I already used q, w comma z as my func3 of 2 comma 3, and then w would take on the value of 5 and z would take on the value of 6. So that really is it. It's def, function name, parentheses, as many inputs as you want, possibly with default values, close parenthesis, colon, indent, code that's indented, and then return output 1, comma output 2, whatever. And then if I wanted to write additional code after that, I would outdent. There's no reason that I couldn't define another function in the same cell in my Jupyter notebook or my Python code or whatever, as long as there's outdenting and then a new def and then a new function. And so q could equal a to the b, return q or something like that. And so I then also have func4, and I screwed up my naming convention, but you get the idea. So those really are the basics. Def as the keyword that says I'm defining a function, the name of my function, parentheses, as many inputs as I want, possibly with default values, close parentheses, colon, indent, whatever code it takes to support my function, keyword return, which is also on the indented line, and then as many outputs as I need to have, and then I outdent if I need to continue coding in that same cell.